how many life-size blow-up Antonio Banderases do you need?
You really only need one and a good patch set.
Yes.
You get really good at patching.
Then why do you have 4 on your personal wish list?
Listen, man. And welcome back to LinuxGameCast Weekly, a show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. And this week, it's just 3 of us because we have timestamps now, and you might have missed. You should be watching us live. You really should. We're like, I don't know what I should do now. This is what I came up with. Hey everyone, how's it going? We do have a big show for you this afternoon. A lot to talk about. A little bit of drama, gossipy stuff, but hey, we got to go over it, and we're gonna jump right into it right after. Pedro, do we have a boot update?
We do. I actually forgot to bring the boots, but they have arrived. I have been wearing them all week. You can tune into the Wednesday show, what myself and Jill do. And yeah, you can see a solo pair of boots. They have arrived. They are, I can safely say, they are the nicest pair of footwear that I have owned ever.
I was honestly surprised.
Better be because they were almost 200 pounds for the pair. So
I was honestly surprised that like Discord was not just filled with pictures of your feet and the boots.
I didn't. Yeah,
I'm a little let down because Twitch finally approved our chair emoji, and you can blow that up in Twitch chat if you want. But hey Cthulhu, with your sexy eyes, and I'm just staring into, wanting those kidneys. What's up, man?
Oh, not much. This week's been kind of quiet because I'm gonna go see Amon Amarth on Wednesday.
What's that?
This is Viking metal. It's gonna be fun. And then I got Strider coming in over the weekend, so that's gonna be interesting.
You're gonna have that Lutris kid at your house.
Yes. And then we'll never see or hear from him ever again. And I'll have an extra set of eyes
points, I think.
over here.
Dude, in all fairness, if you are a patron, go back and listen. Not only did we have Hebrew Sign Language, we also had a discussion about outfits to wear for Strider's arrival, and things could still be in play.
More, I would say it's more of like a Strider dress-up hour than anything.
Okay, listen, man, there's 2 ways to approach it, as we discussed.
Indeed.
Man, I've been playing with a new toy, like right when I got back to the house, and I scrambled to get it plugged in. It is a 13-inch monitor.
Look, there's English on there.
Yeah, there is.
You perfect.
Made in China. It's an IPS 13.5-inch USB-C. It also has a full-size HDMI port. But we wanted to do this. One of the long things is getting enough monitors and everything set up so we could have like interviews. This has been something that's been bugging me. And this thing's $160, and it works under Linux. With the USB-C connector, I only have one thing plugged into this, and it's plugged into the virtual link on the 2060. And with a bit of coercion, it ended up working, and we're using it right now, and it only kind of exploded twice that I could recover from. But I think for like regular use, go check it out. I would give it a recommend, unless it like bursts into flames and kicks down my back door and runs screeching into the night. Then I would definitely recommend it. I'd buy another one.
I mean, that sounds like something the horse would do.
What's he up to this week, that wacky
I don't know, but that guy's a bit of a delinquent. It's the Steam
Update of the week. And, well, yeah, we've been having a lot of betas, basically, since Valve put out the library update. There have been a lot of betas that have Linux-specific fixes. And this one, it's not related to the library necessarily, at least not the Linux bits, but they do have some improvements to prevent the new library from doing any animation/GPU work when the library window is covered by other windows or games, regardless of GPU acceleration settings. Someone wasn't respecting their own settings. Now, what are they, Valve?
I'm very respectic.
God damn it, if I could type it in, fine.
But yeah, the library is still running as jackily as it did, at least for me. But both Ven and Jordan got to experience something that I didn't, so that I feel a bit left out.
Yeah, you think Steam was beyond jump scares, right?
Well, I heard that you like it big.
Tuboku. Yeah, so Ven put this in the show notes, and I'm like, okay, that's going to be annoying. But then it happened to me, and I legitimately had a moment of fright. Because UI scaling, if you've turned it on the original client, it makes everything kind of like big, a little too
2x.
big. Yeah, a little 2x Boku. But now the Steam library like full screens at like 2x scaling, so it's like this huge window with a bunch of huge text that just will pop up randomly because Steam usually takes a bit of a couple seconds to like go through its login startup process, whatever. So you'll look away and then blah.
I launched it, didn't think anything of it, because every time they do an update, I'm like, fair enough. This is the first time they've did a beta that I haven't just ran constantly. I've ran into issues. And yeah, I had that experience. And boom, like, no, go away. Do that thing. It is getting better. One of the updates is they fixed the issue with libcurl for our brothers and sisters on Arch.
This is true.
We talked about last week that they were working with that Arch repo, so we're saying like, hey man, we're gonna get that fixed.
There's also a new version of SDL2 in the repo as well. So
yeah, actually accounting for newer libraries. Thank you, Valve.
Well, it's not so much that. It was like disabling SSL v3 because that's been like long deprecated. That was one of like the Heartblade bug issues, but it was still in there because there's a lot of legacy software that needed functions exposed by that for whatever reason. But yeah, so now that's hopefully now people targeting the Steam runtime will have functional network multiplayer.
I'm still going to try it out. I mean, if you've been holding off, it's 90% there. I mean, 90% of the time, I don't have to do any weird finagling on Debian 10.1 in order to make it work. And it'll have moments of clarity followed by like, oh, gee, all right, because I hit that thing again. I'm like, nope, rolling back. So try it out. Let us know. Send us some feedback. We get to talk about Randy Pitchford.
Yeah, we do.
I suppose we do.
So, you may have seen a video Pedro's boyfriend Jim Sterling put out last week about this. But the short version is that Bobby Prince, he did the music for Duke Nukem 3D, and he licensed it to Apogee for a royalty of $1 every copy sold. Gearbox recently released Duke Nukem 3D with like an enhanced edition. And it shipped
and no Linux version.
And well, yeah, sure. And it came with the original soundtrack. And Bobby's like, "Yo, man, I own that music. You just can't use it without my permission. I'll license it to you for the original deal, but I need my money. This is my intellectual property. I own it." And Randy Pitchford's like, yeah. Well, I believe the quote was, "We'll take care of you.
We'll take care of you." If anyone tells you that, get it in writing.
Yeah, and that apparently taking care of him meant like giving him a taco and a hand job or something. And Bobby's like, "Yo, no, I don't accept that, so I'm going to sue you." Also, he's suing Valve because he did file or his lawyers filed a DMCA takedown notice with Steam saying, "Hey, you are selling something that by someone who does not have the full rights to it, so you need to take that shit down." And apparently Valve ignored it, so Bobby Prince is saying, well, if they're not going to play ball, then we're going to start playing hardball, and they're going to have to respond. So here we are in this situation.
This has just been I don't have a problem with it. I don't. I mean, I love Valve, but they should have been on that because this guy's legit. He's been around, and somebody should have looked at this.
The moment you get someone who actually got named in the credits for the original Duke Nukem 3D for doing the music, and they say, "Yo, my music is being used in an unlicensed format, please fix," you need to do something. And this is another legal proceeding that Valve is now involved in. Valve, pretty please, whatever you do, don't siphon funds. Don't siphon funds from the Linux people and the Proton people to give to the lawyers, please.
Don't worry, they'll take it from the Mac people. But didn't even in this game that was distributed by Steam still have his copyright in the text? Yeah.
Yeah, no, the audio files themselves have text encoded in them that say like this is owned by Bobby Prince, all rights reserved, etc., etc. So there is no excuse at all. Due diligence was not done on the part of Gearbox or Valve for that matter, and yeah, Bobby Prince is 100% in the right for this.
I'm sure money will solve all problems in this case.
Indeed.
Summer recap.
Yeah, it's summertime, sun time, fun time. It's been a busy couple months for the team over at Valve who are working on Steam. They've been doing stuff with the was it Steam Labs, where they're showing off like various little trailers and whatnot. They're talking a little bit about how the Steam Link app has been released from beta. It's now in prime time. It's general availability, and they've done a lot to make being able to play your games on an Android tablet like happen without any sort of involvement from.
Ooh, they got the Mac
developers.
requirement stuff too. We're more on that at 11.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That in and of itself is a whole different can of worms. But yeah, they pushed out the new library. Lots of stuff, and I do actually kind of like this whole transparency through the lens of marketing optics that they have going now, because yeah, they're I think they are sufficiently spooked by the Epic Store, and they're just like, hey, look at all this stuff we're doing, look at where all this money is going. Please don't take these exclusivity deals, because we're actually producing stuff with this.
We're actually giving you stuff. Go figure.
Please,
you know,
stay with us. I swear, baby, I'll change.
The whole library thing, I like it, and I like the 5-second trailers and them actually going. It's like, oh yeah, these were the top games that sold the most this month. I like that. I also like the mobile bits with the Steam remote play integration. Those are very nice to see. The rest,
Progress is progress, man. I mean, what if you can say about Epic? And, you know, there's something to be said like, well, Valve was clearly working on some of this long before Epic had anything to do with it. True. But I do believe that has helped accelerate the timeline. Or
Definitely.
create a timeline.
it's like, okay, now we need to get this done yesterday.
It's kind of brilliant. Ashes of the Singularity. We've been waiting on it, and it's finally here. To tell
Ashy
us,
Larry?
we can get stuffed, man, because it's not going to be a thing, man. The developer wrote back, and he's like, with Vulkan work coming to an end, we are considering the port to Linux. Starts off good, but the latest updates, like, okay, we got it ported. Bad news. It runs like poo on Debian, and it runs better and worse depending on summarizing what video card you're using, so we can't release it. Good news, Jordan.
Yes. So apparently, you know, they've actually done the work to integrate the Vulkan and Linux support in their engine. So the next game they release will actually have, you know, adequate testing and development. And so it might perform not like poo, and they'll be able to release a native Linux version. I mean, it's basically the Hemimont approach, right? Like they updated their engine for like Tropico and Victor Vran, and now they can just pump out Linux versions because they've already done the legwork. So I guess we gotta wait for Stardock to actually make good on their word and not and produce the Linux version.
Yeah, I read that and I was like, okay, Ash, this is something that's kind of been dangled out. But in all fairness, it's Ashes of the Singularity. Like, okay, they're working on Vulkan. This game originally was a Mantle game to showcase the power, but Mantle's a lot closer to DirectX than it is to Vulkan. Just trust me on that. So understandably, but they've learned how to do it. That's great. However, you know, I'm not crushed. I want to be cranky about this. I do. I'm right there with you. But I honestly have never actually met somebody who didn't use this for the benchmark. And I'm like, what did we really lose here? We lost a benchmark from 2016, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, hang on. There.
I was just gonna say, like, I played a couple other Stardock games in the past, like Sins of the Solar Empire, and I can say with some degree of certainty that everyone here would not, and anyone on this podcast would not enjoy that game. It's they're big strategy, grand strategy games. Not really my jam. I don't think they're Ven or Pedro's jam either. So
I was looking forward to this mainly to have another benchmark like Talos Principle, because I have
Yes.
like 30 fucking hours in Talos and I played 60 minutes of the game.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not too bothered about them backing out of Linux for Ashes of the Singularity. That's okay. They tried. They say that they have the work there.
They thanked everyone. They're like, hey, man, everyone like on this matters, man, saying, hey, I'd like Linux support. They were like, we were able to take your, like, hey, we want it. And we were able to make a business case for getting the funds to even do this. So they do make it a point to thank everyone for that. That's cool of them.
And they do say it's like, okay, with Ashes of the Singularity 2, we're going to start developing it with Linux in mind from the get-go. Cool. If you pull a Project Cars on this one, I'm gonna fucking mock you.
Nah, son. Is this before or after Epic signs them to a deal?
We'll find out. See, what's interesting is like once we get to about this time next year, once all these exclusivity deals have expired, I'm curious how we're gonna actually react to a bunch of these games that we've written off because of it.
Dude, we're doing the like forced XKCD comic, right? Yeah, cake is a lie.
All right.
Well, one thing that won't remain a lie, at least in 2019 on Linux, is the Eternal Castle, because ridiculous. Ryan C is very much still active, and he got together with these fine folks and decided, you know what? Let's put this out on Linux. And yes, it is CGA graphics in all its glory. If you've never played this, you're not alone, apparently. At least 2 people here didn't.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like Another World in that it's one of those games where they were trying to do something like really experimental back in like 1987. Like it like the choreography and whatnot looks like very cinematic, but the colors are very, very basic. And it reminds me a bit of Another World in that sense, which I believe Iculus also helped port to modern operating systems. So this isn't the first time he did it.
Yeah, I don't know. I like it and all of its CGA horror.
It's minimalist. I kind of do dig the aesthetic.
Yeah, it's something I'll probably like.
You have 16 colors. Use them.
Iculus did it, so I'll kick him. Maybe get some coin for that. I'll kick him some coin for making a Linux port. Like Pedro, you said, it's priced to sell. I mean, it's not like we want $39 for this. So I'm like, no, I'll give you $1 for that. Play with it for 10 minutes and probably be done with it. But then again, I might love it. I might put several minutes into it. Yeah.
Several.
Yeah, it is like it's currently like £4, 33% off. So yeah, if you played this game back in the day and you'd like to relive it on, modern operating system, you can. If you never played it, but like ourselves, you're going, ooh, it does look interesting. It's cheap.
Indeed.
We will check it out. All right. A little bit of drama.
Mac developments.
Hot Frog, man. You might have heard of him, maybe not, but you probably have heard of Forager at some point. And they got some bad news for the fine folks running the Linux operating system and that wonderful kernel. Yeah, they're like, yo, check this out. Let's see if we can get down to the Linux version for GOG-Win. They say, unfortunately, both Linux and Mac have proven very difficult for us to work with. Forager will no longer be available for Mac and Linux moving forward. Any plans to bring the game to Mac have officially been canceled. This is a very difficult choice I had to make. And if you're interested in knowing why I and hundreds of other game developers are ditching Mac/Linux, take a look at this article that it only mentions Mac, really.
No. You see.
There's a mention of Linux
once.
there.
Oh,
once in a graphic about the disproportionality of purchases to support ticket requests, which really just boils down to you didn't quality control the Linux version, and that's why there's a bunch of support tickets.
this does kind of boil down to that. And, reading through the forums, one particular thread, I'm like, okay. And naturally somebody brought up, it's like, hey, refunds, because we're not doing that. And I'm kind of on board with that. I kind of got to side with people who bought this game, also with other game developers that have chimed in that, first, that article is about OS X, and OS X is going 64-bit only. I understand that. It's not about Linux, because you could have said You know, OS X is becoming a legitimate piece of nightmare nope to develop on. Giant pain in the ass, and we're also not going to do the Linux port because fill in the fucking blank, write a blank check, man. But you didn't, Brad. I mean, you conflated the two. Like, no, and this has something to do with our Linux version either way, and you just kind of hoped everyone would go along with it. You know, here's the thing. Guy, you might have heard of him. His name's Gabe Logan Newell. He once said something that really touched me in a good way. He said, don't lie to the internet. You know, you probably shouldn't do that, and you kind of did there. We both know that. And I gotta say this, though. If that fuck-billed 40-year-old edgelord Gary can offer refunds for people who bought Rust under Linux, the game with swinging caveman peni.
Yep.
Shouldn't a nice, wholesome game like Forager, the game you created, do the same question mark? Just wondering. Just gonna... Maybe.
And the annoying thing is, it's like going back to the article that he references. It's like, yeah, that article, it includes the lines, especially since it also works nicely on Linux and Proton under Steam. So for as long as it's possible to run it in Wine on a Mac, it'll still be an option. So that article itself specifically puts Linux in a much brighter light than Mac ever was. So how the fuck do you get off on scrapping the Linux port just because of that particular Mac BS?
I think one of the other things too is that the Linux port actually already exists. Like they produced a binary, people could go and play it, and now they're saying, well, you're not going to get any more updates if you want to do the multiplayer, if you want to do any of that, then go fuck yourself, right? And just canceling support for that for some unrelated reason is kind of like rubbing salt in the wounds. I can definitely see why the reception has not been warm.
Yeah, to say the least.
And this is not a game that's been out for a long time either. It's been out for a couple months.
And it came out to really, everyone really liked it, and now they pulled this. The fuck?
They got to do what they got to do. It's like, just don't lie to the internet. Be like, hey, man, Jordan's got a good point. It's like, well, we've got a lot of support tickets from Linux. That means you didn't test your build. That's all you're saying. When you say that, you do realize that's read as, well, we shipped something that was busted, and you paid the same price that the one that we tested was. When it comes to refunds, something this new, what I don't like is in the reply, I guess the developer wrote back, it's like, oh, if you want refunds, we don't have anything to do with that. You have to talk to Valve, which we know is not the case. Thank you for that, Gary. You can work something out. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's something to be said, though, of like, hey, man, I gave you the game, and I didn't promise any future updates or anything, but you kind of expect that when you buy something on Steam as opposed to just stealing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the game is it still currently available? Can you buy it right now for Linux?
I am checking that right now. Fuck you. Open up a pop-up window.
No. Just Windows.
No.
Yesterday you still could.
Okay.
Skirted under the line.
Dude. All right. Hey, more Linux love.
Yes, love.
Destiny. I was so excited. Pedro was streaming on Tuesday and he reminded me that Destiny 2, and I was like, I don't even know what this game is, but I heard people were excited about it, so I downloaded 80 gigs. Admittedly, it didn't take that long, but still 80 gigs. I had to clean up some space for that. I launched it. It went just noped with Proton. That's as much effort as I'll give a fucking Windows game. I didn't care. Uninstalled it. Mentioned it to Pedro. Then this popped up. This is on our Linux. Who originally posted this?
How the fuck do I code?
XMR Scott threw this in. He's like, hey, man, if this gets up and running on Linux, Destiny 2, working with Proton, will I get banned? Fair enough. The not compatible Steam, but, it's going to happen eventually. And to which they wrote back, Destiny 2 on PC only supports Windows. Linux via Proton is not supported as it's considered a modified operating system, as is Wine and other emulation services. So get stuff, dork.
I mean, I'm very surprised that there wasn't more. Wine is not an emulator; it's in the name. Talk, but yeah. So apparently, someone actually did find a patch for Wine to get, or rather for the game itself, to get Destiny 2 operating under Proton or Wine, but that disabled anti-cheat, and so it does make sense that Blizzard would say, or not. Blizzard is publishing this for PC, but it's
Not
Bungie.
anymore.
Yeah, Bungie is saying, yeah, you know what? If you're going to disable anti-cheat, you can't play our multiplayer game because there are fucking cheaters on there, and we don't want to deal with that shit. However, I would say this is actually kind of this is one of those things where a curated whitelist that is routinely kept up to date and will tell people, hey, here are the games that we do support, and that will not ban you for trying to play this under Linux. would be kind of useful. And again, this is another reason we should start pushing Epic to improve that easy anti-cheat support under Wine, even though they have no incentive to do so whatsoever.
Yeah, it's but as we brought up on the show, like, this is free to play. But even if I buy something that has online components that is not native, if it's running through Proton and it's not whitelisted, I consider that. I think about that before making the purchase. I'm like, if this gets noped, all right, I don't really have a leg to stand on. So,
yeah, I was curious about this game though, because it's people at work. Most of them used to be console players anyway, so they used to play this game a lot on PS4, and then they moved to PC. It's like, ooh, the game is available on Battle.net, and they started playing it on that. And I thought, you know what? It's going to come to Steam, and it's going to be free to play, so I'll be able to play with you guys finally. Oh, fuck that noise, apparently.
So here's another thing to consider, is that Destiny 2 is one of the launch titles for Stadia. So there is, in fact, a Linux version that exists.
yeah.
Yes, hypocrisy at its finest.
That we're never going to be able to play under non-Stadia hardware. It's going to be fantastic.
So we do have one new game this week.
Yes, Scribble-de-bibble-de-boo. It's Scribble It. Basically, it's a collection of Pictionary-style games. It's Drawful minus Jackbox, and the 0.6 update basically says, "Go, we got Linux support. Suck it, Mac users."
This is after show bait the video game right here.
Pretty much. Like I said, this is all of, like, the drawing games in Jackbox, just minus the whole Jackbox stuff.
Right.
And it's relatively cheap too. You can pick it up for like $5 Canadian.
Right. It's
like
$5.99 Wet Sticky American Cash. Is online multiplayer, currently 20% off. We might play around with this in the future. What do we need to run it? Not much, I'm assuming. 4
Vulkan
gigs.
to 4.3.
Apparently it uses Vulkan, so
Hey, I'm down with that.
yeah.
All right.
Vulkan for scribbles.
Unless somebody tap that Vulkan render button.
Bonus soda.
Indeed. All right. Coming up next, man, Intel buyers, I bet you feel real stupid right now, don't you?
And now that we've managed to
Burn everything down.
do whatever it was we just did to that horse, poor thing, I think it's time that we actually turned our attention to you. All of you who watch LinuxGameCast
Why
or
would you
listen to
do that? People
LinuxGameCast.
watch this show to escape reality, not to deal with self-reflection. Have you ever done that? It's nasty. It's all teeth and nails.
Don't worry. We're not actually going to be talking about you. We're going to be talking about us and how you can, help us.
How you can help our nails? Make your nails more fabulous by, I don't know, bedazzling what we do. Hey, if you like what we do, you get some value out of it. We got a bunch of things under that support button at LinuxGameCast.com. We get some coin to do the show without commercials. Let's see, how can you help us? We have an Amazon suggesty stored thing. If you're wondering, okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, Jordan. Get it out of your system.
I was just gonna say, it's like how the stuff that we use to make the show. If you're curious and you want to replicate this yourself, you can with handy dandy shopping lists that we put together. That if you buy stuff off it, we get a cut, but you can go to Newegg. We don't care.
That's 100% thing. One thing I was going to bring up with that is like the monitor. This is all stuff we're using in the studio that I can tell you works with Linux to varying degrees of certainty. You might want to ring with like, how much of a pain in the ass this is to set up, but that could be a different story for a different time. We also have a wish zone because we want to thank all the beautiful people. On Frank's Fine Upstanding Cannibal Wall 2.0 gang album. They're awesome. Their names are in the credits, and you can get your name in the credits too, but you can always hang out on that wall. Everybody's got a wish zone. Pedro's got one. Jordan's got one. Jill's got one. I got one for the studio. I don't have a personal one because we really wouldn't want to see what I'd want personally and all that. It's kind of boring studio stuff. But
how many life-size blow-up Antonio Banderases do you need?
You really only need one and a good patch set.
Yes.
You get really good at patching.
Then why do you have 4 on your personal wish list?
Listen, man, patreon.com/LinuxGameCast is the best way to finance this. We throw you some stuff back in your direction. Early access to what we do for the live streams and all that. You get to come hang out in our Discord the other 6 days of the week where we actually are. We're doing conversations, all that fun stuff, talking some smack to each other with everybody who's awesome enough to support this. We got an audio-only feed. If you don't want to watch the video stuff, that's through our Discord, and we do the pre-super shows, and that's the thing you can get in your own customized RSS feed. Put it in your catcher. Yeah, catcher. Let's use that.
Pot sticker.
Pots catcher. And one thing we're playing around with for the past 2 weeks for our executive producers, those lovely green-titled people, is we're doing a live video feed an hour before the show that everybody can come in and be like, hey, man, what are you doing? Why are you researching Hebrew Sign Language? Reasons, Brad. Reasons. All right. That's enough commercialing for us. Let's get right into it. Intel. Listen, I just threw this in because it was a big ha. A lot of us have AMD CPUs. I was going to let Jordan take this, but, he's biased. He's Team Blue. But Cascade Lake X is considerably faster than Skylake X at half the cost. I just wanted to throw this in because they had to. Pedro, would you agree? I'm going to stab you in your taint if you keep fucking with that water bottle. The new i9s, faster, half the price. They can cut $1,000 off of this. And I'm just saying, a lot of you, it's coming up on Christmas. You might be thinking about buying a new CPU. And you're like, oh, well, 3,900. Yeah. But now Intel's rolling out and they're like, listen, dude, you can get a 10-core, 20-thread, 10900X i9. Man, kind of fighter Intel with that.
That naming scheme.
165 watts for $590, man. Or a 12-core, 24-thread for $308. See, that's like they're priced like there's another company that could compete with them all of a sudden.
All of a sudden, yeah. It's almost as if there was this a Ryzen 9 3900X that was a 12-core that was basically destroying anything Intel could offer at any price range. And then Intel goes, oh, maybe we should do something about that. And I guess they did. And the Max all-core Turbo is still... These are like high-end desktop.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got womp.
Yeah, that page cut was not...
My PCI 4.0 lens,
the PCI 3, right?
Yeah.
No, the PCI 4 is an AMD thing. It feels weird to be, 2019 where AMD is
Pedro, this
leading.
is Linux Gamecast, and I know we're going to get an email. It was like, no, my Power 9's got PCI 4, you dipshit. That's what showed up first.
I mean, challenge mode, you're on Power 9.
Fair. But yeah, Intel did this because I can't remember if it was video cards or WCCF Tech.
They leaked it first, causing all the YouTubers to ready to scramble and do live streams that day. And you're like, what the hell, man?
Pretty much.
Right.
So they said, just, you know what? Let's just release the actual slides. And they did. And they saw... People were seeing the prices of the new 10 series Intel CPU HEDT CPUs, which admittedly the slide that originally released only shows the price for bulk orders of 1,000 units. So we have yet to see what the actual retail price will be. But yeah, basically they cut the price in half from the previous generation.
$1,000 off it. Imagine if you just bought something like a month ago, they're like the
9900K. Yeah.
I know that
this new part, it's faster and $1,000 less.
Yeah.
Yep.
This was the exact feeling I had when I bought that 1080 or the 1080 Ti, and then they're like, "Hey, 2080 RTX, baby, RTX."
Yep.
Yeah, no, it looks like some competition in the CPU space is doing Intel some good, because now they actually have to, price things aggressively. I don't know. We actually got to see how the performance stacks up in the real world, though. Especially with like the Vulkan benchmarks and whatnot. So
encoding, they get a little bit of danger with this, and this really makes me go, as a person who's like, you think you bought in? I bought a Threadripper, baby. How this is going to roll out, because the price performance comparison against Gen 2 Threadripper, I'm like, all right, you got a little bit of a value there. If Gen 3 just drops it, flops it out on the table.
Gen 3 is coming out later this year.
Next month.
Yeah.
Technically correct. That's still later in the year.
Technically correct. That's correct. If Gen 3 Threadripper rolls out at a reasonable price, especially if it's still socket TR4, please be socket TR4, because I want to buy the Gen 2 at stupid cheap, and if you don't, Gen 2 is not going to get any cheaper. At just the maddening price performance of Zen 3, and that the best silicon is going to be in 3rd gen Threadripper, not the 3900s. We might have some here. No?
I still want that 3900 though. I really do.
Matt, nobody needs 12.
Also coming next month.
Yeah, I know.
Nah. All right. That's kind of beautiful. We had fun talking about that. It's always, I don't care who you root for. It's good to have competition again. It's good that we can have this conversation.
Yes.
Indeed.
After
Intel,
a decade of
50% price cut. Yeah.
Intel, you blinked. We both know. Hi, Ryan. Call me. Coming up next.
Well, Godot has themselves a new premium sponsor, and they are a lovely group of weebs who created a multiplayer backend server called Nakama. That was
so we're not going to mention it, but the Heroic Labs logo, we all know what it fucking looks like, right? Okay.
It's butt plug.
Okay.
I didn't notice it. Now I did.
Indeed. But yeah, so this is actually kind of neat, because Godot does not have any sort of built-in network multiplayer. And so pairing with the guys from Heroic Labs to help better integrate Nakama into Godot means that, like Unity, there's going to be a very, very simple way for developers to integrate multiplayer features, especially online multiplayer features, into their Godot projects. Maybe, just maybe, we'll start seeing some of those games designed with couch co-op get, some online play, because some of us don't have friends, right?
Guilty. I don't have any friends.
Oh, man. I'm
Seriously,
down with
who'd
it.
want to be friends with me?
I don't have anything to say to that, and you know it, so quit.
Le womp womp.
Good news all around for Godot. Proud, happy. The Vulkan support. I mean, things are really coming up in Millhouse, so as long as Space Australia doesn't fall off the earth.
Yeah. Actually, the other cool thing about Nakama is that it is entirely open source. You can see their source on GitHub as well. So,
honestly, I don't think they would tango with too many people that weren't,
at
least very heavily in that. But that's not the only Godot news we have for this week. Nay.
It's wild.
No, we don't.
Buck wilds.
Yep, and itch.io is once again bringing Godot into the forefront with the Godot Wild Jam. And every second weekend of a month, itch.io hosts the Wild Jam, where their Discord users get to pick the themes. And this one is very much based on Godot. And at the time of recording, there's 6 days, 2 hours, 10 minutes, and 20-something seconds left. So part 2, which is after the theme has been selected, people will actually start developing the game. So very much looking forward to that. And if you saw Godot and you've been thinking, maybe I should give that a try and see what that is all about, this is the perfect way to do it, because you get to build something really quickly and try to, come up with something interesting, and you don't have to put whatever it is that you create in front of professional reviewers or critics or just assholes on the internet. So yeah, Yeah, hi. It is basically just the perfect way to test something new and give Godot a try, because Godot is awesome and more people should use it.
So I'm not saying we're trying to swing anything or influence any votes, but they got a Discord channel that you can hop over to, and you know,
They totally do.
If this is where you can suggest the theme ideas, and if like the theme happened to be like rectangle shape made of
Clay,
fired clay, maybe brick-like theme.
Yes,
We might love you long and hard, because we might
Red
have
fire clay.
we might have something to submit.
Yeah, I was looking through the judging criteria, and they include such categories as fun, controls, and audio and graphics, aka shiny and sounds. This is some like dime store CHAIRQASITION heresy I'm seeing right here. But yeah, the other thing is if they're doing it second weekend of the month, or it's a lot of jam. Basically, twice a month, every month. It's pumping out a lot of games.
We can spoon it out. That's how you jam, right? With spoons.
I guess you could just eat jam out
Don't
of
you
the
dare
jar
think
with a
about judging me.
Listen, if your spoon is too big, you might need to resort to a knife. I'm just saying.
And plug up your butt.
With a
Everspace
banana.
2.
I am a banana.
Check it out, man. Open world, space shooter, deep exploration, sophisticated RPG elements. It's a great sci-fi story. They got a Kickstarter, man. They're looking for 494,087 white stinky American cashes. Currently 1,700 backers. 29 days to go, man. And well, we got to do this thing for LINUX. There it is. Everspace 2 is, according to them, going to be for Windows, Mac, and Linux, and console, PS4, Xbox One. Good to hear. I'm happy to hear that. That's good. Estimated delivery 2020. You're looking at €40 for the minimum buy-in. And you know what, Pedro, you played a little bit of this hotness, Everspace 1, right?
The first one, yeah.
I liked it. I liked everything that was going on with it. Right up to the point where you're like, oh, I died. Got to start over. I went, nope. I hit my Spock button, and I don't like roguelike, man. I was like, no roguelike in my Space Sims, bro.
But space is really, really big, then.
Man,
That's like
reject
the
your
one
reality
thing
and
that...
substitute Pedro.
Ooh, yeah, please do. I'm really not happy with this one. You
have your own Pedro? You've been holding out, man. Get the other one on.
Can I substitute my Pedro for an onion ring orders?
Nope.
Don't tell anyone, but they grow very easily on certain parts of the planet. But yeah, no. Mm-hmm. Yes. Everspace, the first
you
one.
You didn't think I was paying for these things, did you?
Look, those clone vats, they didn't spring out of nowhere. Just saying.
All right, I'm searching for a word. It's like deforestation, but with Pedros.
The Pedro station?
Yeah.
It's like devastation, but with
work. I'll be better at it next week.
But yeah, the first one, despite not being Linux native, it actually worked better being a Unreal Engine 4 game than any other Unreal Engine 4 game that we've had natively on Linux. And they did a good job with their first Kickstarter and the first Everspace. So I have absolutely no reason to think that they would drop the ball on this one, but I really hope that they don't. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's not a lot to do, really. Just more of the game, right?
Yeah, which is fine. It's just space exploration, the game.
I guess they could add like new mission structures or like different factions. That would actually be kind of neat if you could like team up with factions and play them against each other in like a big open world. That would be kind of neat. And it definitely looks good. I'm quite looking forward to this, especially if they're going to be producing a native Linux version. But you know, it's Kickstarter, so don't go holding your breath.
It's also Unreal Engine 4, and everyone I've talked to on the development side who was like, have you tried it working with it on Linux instead of just sending out the build? And they're like, it's right now in its current state, nay impossible to do anything with it. And like, shit's on Fire.io is to oversimplify what I've been told by a couple of developers.
I mean, hell, their prepackaged assets aren't even available under the Linux build. So
yeah, and considering how Epic has, well, they haven't exactly ingratiated themselves to the Linux crowd. Not surprised.
No, they cut Strider a big check.
Yeah.
As far as we know. But yeah. Let's say you don't want... there it is. There's the penguin. Let's say...
Any mention... All right, come on, let's get to it.
Let's say you don't want that Epic money, but instead you have an open source game that you would very much like to see flat-packed and included in a Steam-like client. Well, Athenaeum is very much that Steam-like client for those flat-packed games, and it itself is also available as a flat-pack. You can just go on FlatHub and install it, which I have it installed right now, and it works very, very well, and version 1.0 is now out. In fact, if you're keeping up with the latest versions, it's up to 1.0.3, and they fixed a couple of bugs, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. It is a client for the open source games which are currently available as flat packs. And it's much like Steam. You hit install, you hit play, boom. Sometimes it'll go, oh, look, this one has an updated flat pack out. Would you like to update? Yes, please. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, I like it.
They have so yeah, 1.0 just got released. They're saying that 1.0 is basically just a semantic version. They're not anywhere near done. The UI looks a little less Lutrasy now, because that was one of the things I noticed when I fired it up originally, was that it looks very, very much like Lutris. Now it's a little more multi-screen, it's a little nicer. And apparently they're also targeting OS 10 support in the future, but you know, given how miserable OS 10 development is, I don't know how well that's gonna go.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna be a thing. And we'll give you a little bit of a pro tip. Going to do your announcements, you might want to do it in more than one place, and that one place being your subreddit.
Yeah, maybe do. GitHub has that nice little releases tab. Yeah. That's perfect for this.
Yes.
Well, yeah. just give it that a shot. Nintendo Switch emulation, something I'm kind of interested in, because it might be the only way I get to play Bayonetta 2, man.
It's possible. I mean, you might be able to get the Wii U emulator up and running at some point. Yeah, Yuzu has a performance update, apparently, according to Gizmodo. The links to all this is in our show notes. So it's saying you can play stuff like Super Mario Odyssey at 60 FPS now, which is pretty neat. So I decided I'm gonna, give it a little whirly woo. They have some very nice and detailed build instructions for multiple distros too. It's nice to not have to like run it through the translation matrix to understand like, okay, this Debian package is this Fedora package, but there's also some missing library in this other package, etc., etc. So I built it. And I got to the point where it's like, yeah, you need to pull out your Switch and run a bunch of this fucking homebrew software on it to dump all the keys so that you can actually emulate stuff. And I'm like, I'm gonna do that maybe later. Also, I don't know if it's just me, but like I'm so used to RPCS3 and like Dolphin blogs that explain everything that they're doing and like explaining why the performance is the way it is and what they're doing to fix it and what their plans are. Yep. That I was a little disappointed to find that they don't actually detail what they did to improve the performance with this latest patch set, which is a little sad.
We've been spoiled, Brad. We've just been spoiled.
It's interesting reading. It just straight up is.
Yeah, actually getting completely alien architectures to run on x86 is like, oh look, we get these games running about as well or even better than they did in the original consoles. So, yes.
Well,
one last thing. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say with the Switch, it's not that alien though, because it's a Tegra. It's honestly, you can get an Android
it's an
emulator.
NVIDIA Shield tablet. Yeah.
This thing I think was cracked on, not day one, but close enough. One last thing we need to talk about is Drawn Down Abyss.
Sugar, I'm going down. Yeah, this is a action platformer card deck building game. Yep. Oh boy, yeah, that's the thing. Based on the screen, the little videos they have here, the little gifs, it looks a little too bullet helly for my tastes. But the idea is that you get 3 cards that each represent an ability, and you can mix and match them to change your playstyle. And sometimes you'll need to change them on the fly to deal with specific enemies because they'll need to be defeated in a certain way, which is kind of neat. And There'd be nice if you buy them on itch. They'll give you the Steam key, which is nice to have. And it's $6, so that's pretty cheap.
Well, the big reason I want to throw this out is it's done entirely in Python with Pygame.
Indeed.
Not only do you, if you buy it on itch, you get a Steam key and you get the source. That's why I threw this in here. Yeah, the source is available. So, I mean, if something you want to look at and learn from, it's a cheap way to do it. $5.99.
Yeah, that's not a very bad price for what they're giving you. And it's like action platformer, roguelike deck builder. All right, 2 more and you get a bite-sized Snickers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so the other neat thing about including the source, though, is that it opens up the possibility for community-created levels and content, which, as we know, will drastically expand the lifespan of games.
This is having it out there. That's something you might want to look into. I'm pretty sure it might not be just something that now that you have it, you can slap it up on GitLab or something like that.
Yeah, you're probably still going to need like the assets and everything, but still, you
probably.
But again, like if you understand how the assets are read in, then you can make your own content.
Right.
So
100%. Cool.
All right, coming up next, I thought for sure that this game was going to be ripping off Legend of Zelda based on the name, but it's actually ripping off Diablo. It's Dim Legacy. Or Din's Legacy. I'm a Dim Legacy. Maybe you want to master Hebrew Sign Language. Well, by the end of the CHAIRQASITION, you will. We're taking a look this week at Din's Legacy. It's from Soldak Entertainment. It's developed on an entirely custom engine. You can pick it up for about $20. What is it? Din's Legacy is an action RPG with mutating characters set in a dynamic, evolving fantasy world for Windows, Mac, and Linux. We got to thank Soldak Entertainment for sending us some keys so that we could take a look at this. So, like all CHAIRQASITIONs, let's talk about how the game works. How did it work on Des Moines? 3
distributions of pain. Speaking of pain, man, does it launch? Fuck no, it didn't. Once I managed to make it launch once. I did. Then I cocked up and changed the resolution from like the little mice type window, even on a 43-inch UHD monitor. It was still so tiny. If it opened on this one, I would just throw it out the window. Then I did something outrageous. I switched the resolution, and from then on out, it only launched on my second UHD monitor, like the bottom left-hand corner of the game image. What I can only imagine was like stretched out 800 by 600, looking at like the pixel depth. Dude, really? Haven't had that happen in a while. It was a bit of a... anyway. So, where am I going with this? I kind of had fun with it, maybe? I don't know. No amount of poking around in that config file, and I tried. Honestly, I looked at it and I was like, you know what? I can just bail on this. I'm like, it didn't work out of the box. I couldn't do that to you at home. I owed you like, okay, tracked down the config file, found it, flipped all the bits I knew to flip. It's not my first rodeo, and it still told me to eat every single bag of dicks available to me. So... yeah, I got to stop and start with the QAs. I haven't dropped this ever. Not green. No.
Other one.
One. There. You know, here, okay. Here's what I just realized. I don't have 4X chairs loaded. This has never happened before.
I swear, baby, this never happens.
Oh, man. Did we put on Fedora?
Yeah, I'm hard and ready to go. On Fedora 30 64-bit with the i7 6700K with the Spectre mitigations turned on and the GTX 1080 Ti. Yeah, it starts up. It's a little itty-bitty 1024 by 768 window, which is microscopic on my 28-inch UHD monitor. Mm-hmm. So I went into the graphical options and I said, be a 1080p window. That's reasonable.
Can I ask you something?
And then the game crashed. What's up?
Did you get like multiple resolutions? Because I had like 1024 by 768 and some moon resolution.
I had all the supported resolutions that came out of the box.
I did not. Yeah. In all fairness, I have 4 monitors. 5.
Indeed. Yeah, that's too many according to the NVIDIA drivers. You change the resolution and the game crashes. Fortunately, it actually, saved that to the config file, so I stayed in a 1080p window afterwards. And then it performed at about 60 FRIPS because it's not that complicated a game. Graphics, it's only slightly better than Diablo, the first one. And controls, click, click, boom. I'll give it 3 chairs.
Yeah. And over here on the 3700X with the GTX 1080, it does launch. Like Jordan said, whenever you apply a change to the graphics, the game closes. Now, This isn't the first of their games that I have played that does this, namely the previous one in this particular series, Din's Curse, did the exact same thing.
Din?
You changed... I have no idea. The moment you change like the resolution or any of like the anti-aliasing or the scaling or anything in the graphics options, the game would just close. And then you start it again, and it's at whatever setting you left it. So I'm not entirely sure that's not intentional. So I'm not gonna get a chair for that. The performance, yeah, it's locked at 60 at whatever resolution you're playing it at, courtesy of VSync. I didn't really see the need to unlock it, so yeah. The graphics are very simple. Guessing the 3D models were bought from somewhere, but they get the job done. And yeah, you click, you right-click, you hit the number keys. That's it. 4 chairs.
Okay, well, there you go. Don't play it on Debian, on NVIDIA.
10.1, danger distro.
I don't know. Maybe if you have an AMD GPU, things might work, which is going to be it's going to be a weird opposite land in the land of Din's Curse. Anyways, Ven, I'm sure you had a blast mucking around the config files.
Dude, you got to check this. The 15 minutes, legitimate 15 minutes. Couldn't get the game to launch, but I managed to put 15 minutes of trying to. That is clocked. Go check it on my Steam profile. Digging out and digging around a config file. You know what? That can in itself be educational, in all fairness, and might even enjoy. I'm just fucking with you. 1 chair. Nope.
Yeah, I find that I like this game a lot better when I'm on drugs. I tried playing it sober, and I'm just like, I don't care about all this dialogue in this tutorial.
Put that on the Steam page.
Yeah, but once me and my friend Tally sit down and we give this game a crack, it was a little better. I mean, it's pretty bog standard ARPG. You click on things, murder them, you recruit henchmen, gather items, all for the purpose of being able to click on enemies fewer times in order to kill them, to gather henchmen, etc., etc. This game adds a bit of a twist where you can sort of mix and unlock and mix and match abilities, and then include them in between save files, which is kind of interesting. There's also like a town city building component that I didn't really feel like reading the library's worth of tutorial information, because like every time you talk to someone, there's 8 more tutorial things, and eventually the entire bottom of your screen will be just covered in question marks that blink in and out of existence whenever the cursor goes over there. And I'm like, I don't really care enough to read any of this. I just want to go and kill some monsters. And you know what? The combat in and of itself isn't actually too bad. It is a little. It's not as refined as something like Diablo or Torchlight, and it does seem a little mindless at times, because it's basically if you're playing the Weapon Master like myself or Pedro, you unlock the cheap strike ability, and then you just kind of mouse around and mash 2, and then everything dies in front of you. They just get pastified, and sometimes you get a better weapon. Man, the inventory system in this is kind of annoying, because you have to like find bags in order to carry more stuff. And if you want to have you want to take advantage of the shared inventory, you actually have to put away bags. But it does actually encourage you to have multiple characters running, as Pedro will go and tell you more about. I mean, yeah, periodically though, while I'm going and adventuring, I get like these little warnings like, your rival has built a time machine, or your rival has recruited the bandits of Blargmagon to go do something on the plains of Argador, and I'm like, I don't understand what any of this means. Like, yeah, this game throws a lot of proper nouns at you, and it gets a little confusing. I mean, yeah, eventually, like, I was just trying to fill out the map, and I found a bunch of warp points. And then, so here's my biggest gripe of this entire fucking game, is that there is a reset fog of warp button. Why does that exist? What purpose does that, other than for me to accidentally click it and then realize, I don't know where the fuck I am anymore. Oh, God. But yeah, all the missions are also kind of weird, because there's a whole, like, you gotta pay to locate people, and you gotta go to these areas that have really complex names, and they're not directly accessible. It's all right. I'll give it 2 chairs. Maybe multiplayer would have given it a 3rd chair, but
there is multiplayer.
I know, but we didn't test it.
Yeah, not entirely sure how that would work, but I honestly, for the single player bits, I like it. There are so many like mechanics hidden under the surface of what seems to be a very simple game. It will, out of the box, it'll only have like 6 or 7 different character classes that you can have, but they heavily encourage you to play the game and start like multiple different games with multiple different characters to unlock all of those combinations. And it does like the Morrowind thing that you get you get better at something the more you use it, and you can also drop skill points into that to improve those particular skills. But every now and then you'll be like fighting certain kinds of monsters, and now your character, now you're a vampire. So during the day you take damage and you're a bit crap, but during the night you're a freaking killing machine. So in that respect, it sort of reminded me of like DIY Sacred or Diablo, because it's a hack and slasher, pure and simple. You do the inventory management, you do like the killing of monsters, and you kill a named monster, and chances are that was a quest that the Warp Master had asked you to do, and you go back into town and you hand in the quest for some bonus XP and you level up. That is the core gameplay loop, and that works really, really well. And it's like the Linux distro of hack and slashers, because it lets you customize anything. The moment you start the game, you get to pick the difficulty, the starting level that you want the enemies to be at, what kind of map you want. Do you want a small map? Do you want a tiny map? Do you want tons of monsters in a map, or do you want more sparsely distributed monsters? Do you want fast progression? Do you want slower progression? Do you want to explore more than fight? Do you want fight more to explore? It's stupid the amount of customization that the game gives you out of the box. And if fans of Dwarf Fortress basically played any other game other than Dwarf Fortress and they were into, hack and slash, this is the kind of game that they'd be playing. If the price wasn't too high, I'd give it 4 chairs, but as it currently stands, that's over £15, so 3.
Well, there you go. If you're a Dwarf Fortress fan, why are you watching this and not playing Dwarf Fortress? Your dwarves are dying. Go take care of them, you monster.
I wanted to play around with it, man. So at the end of the day, what's the final fun score on this?
I would for you, I'm not sure I'd give this a recommendation. I think if you're not a big fan of like Diablo or Torchlight, then you're definitely not going to be into this.
I didn't like Torchlight too.
Okay,
we were talking like in the previous super shows, and this is like just by looking at it, it's like I don't think I would hate this. Like a DOS or a Windows 98 version of Torchlight 2, kind of.
Yeah, the gameplay can get a little monotonous though. It's the progression that you got to look out for. So if you're into like grinding, then this game will give you ample opportunities to grind.
Something to do, piece of kit.
Something
absolutely.
Like that.
In closing, I would like to say it's 2019 test on multi-monitor setups on Debian 10 only. I don't care about these
but only if you have 4 monitors, not 5 monitors. All right. Coming up next, we talk about open ray tracing and why that's never going to be a thing.
And I guess to make up for the lack of feedback for that Wednesday show,
come on, let's kill another Muppet member.
The lack of any hate mail coming in over the last couple of weeks, well, y'all decided to redeem yourselves. Good on you. And if for next week you'd like to have even more the hate mail for us to address, go on over to LinuxGameCast.com. Hit the contact button. Make sure you fill out the forum. LGC Weekly is the show that you need to be sending that hate mail to, and we will be happy to answer your thing right here, right now, unless we can find the answer on the first page of Google. Also, if you're a game developer and you'd like us to have a look at your game, I'm sorry, but you at least need to send us 3 keys, because if you don't, I'm really sorry, because we're just going to
look at the positive way about it. I mean, if I'm about like, hey man, maybe these guys are going to take a look at it or play it live on like one of the multiple streams we do every week, thanks to you beautiful party patrons. If we have 3, there's a good chance 2 of us are going to be like, I don't want to fuck with that, but Pedro will be like, I'll play it. Okay. Suffer with me.
I might.
Right. So it's just a good idea. And it's Steam, man. It doesn't cost you anything. We all know that. Okay, let's get right into it. Who do we have up first?
James,
first-
he's talking about ray tracing. He says,
tracing.
"But ray tracing. But physics in games is real. Whether it was led by hardware devices like physics is debatable. There is a place for non-vendor tied ray tracing for sure."
Mm-hmm.
Love, James.
So this came from the mention of an article. This came via Twitter because that's fair game.
Okay.
An article that was asking, is ray tracing just a gimmick or the future of video games? To which I just simply wrote yes.
I mean, if the
Yes.
technology proliferates, if AMD starts like releasing their own ray tracing solution, and it's supported enough in Vulkan to the point where like you don't have to split your code base, then absolutely people are going to start using it.
One of the things I'm thinking about is in its current state right now, ray tracing is like, hey, RTX is on, like point where it's at.
Oh,
though.
I can tell that RTX is on because instead of 60, I'm getting 30.
I got I got a 2080 Titan. It was only $2,000, but I can play at 60 at 1080p.
Well, therein lies the interesting thing as well, because like for Linux gamers, we don't really get that exposure because if you're playing through DXVK, the game just assumes you're using a Radeon card because that's what DXVK is designed to do.
Lie to it.
So you will not get any RTX period unless the DXVK guys have a way to implement it.
You just shut up, man. I'm going to go play my Quake 2 RTX on my 2060 at
But that's
1080p.
native. That's native.
37 to 45.
I was looking at Control, and that
20.
looks like
20.
that looks like a really cool game.
Well, I
and
got an RTX card, son. I got like 0.5 of a tensor core.
Okay, all right.
They
Very
just
good.
taped it on before they, it's not really in there. But
I can emulate like 2% of a tensor core, but yeah, like I was looking at a game like Control, and that uses ray tracing to make some really cool stuff, like with the brutalist designed levels. So it would be nice if there was a way for the technology to proliferate, but as it stands, NVIDIA is the only one with any sort of commercial real offering that you can use now.
well, we've seen CryEngine a couple of months back, earlier this year, I should say. At this point, they're like, "Hey, man, with Crytek, I mean, difficulty multiplayer. No one's using CryEngine for anything, and they're having issues being solvent as a company." But they're like, "Hey, man, there are ways to do ray tracing that don't require tensor cores."
Mm-hmm.
And that
Intel's
can
also
open
been
up-
working on that.
Intel's doing a thing. I mean, to NVIDIA's credit, they put the hardware in there to do it their way. And no, I don't want to see that as a only way solution. And I don't think that will be the case in the future. But currently, as it sits, man, I didn't get an RTX card because it had tensor cores in it. And I don't think most people did. I got it because of the Turing NVENCODE chip in it. I was like, that's all I wanted it for. So,
And that was the cheapest one you could buy at the time.
and then again, this is NVIDIA we're talking about. They're like, no one should ever buy a card that doesn't have the ability to do ray tracing. Release this in whatever it was, TI, without
The 1650
Yeah,
and the
that one.
1660.
yeah,
Yeah.
smooth.
Good job, NVIDIA.
One thing we love here at LGC, blinky bullshit.
Oh, yes. And Gian is /me despises RGB. I turn it off whenever I can. The bling has worn out, I guess. Backlit keyboards, though, are a different story, so long as it is a single color and no effects.
Where do we stand, like, officially on RGB? Because this came into response of one thing I mentioned earlier. Did you see what Corsair did? Corsair, I like your cases. They made a graphics card holder. You could put in there, and it's like $20, but of course it's RGB addressable.
Yeah, it is Corsair after all.
My case is neither of my RGB cases.
Yeah, the Carbide series, they're very muted when compared to the rest of their lineup. Their mice, their keyboards, their RAM, everything lights up.
Yeah, I personally am a fan of having my computer look like if a monkey walked up to it, it would go crazy and start beating other monkeys to death with a stick. That's usually my aesthetic. But I have no irrational hatred for RGB. I just have no use for it.
I do like the backlit keyboards. Case in fuck mothering point.
Oh, you hipster. I'm not down with it, man. I mean, one thing that I take pride in. And I got like 2. I got like analog and digital RGB headers on this Threadripper board. Never going to get used. And I think the type of person, and I'm not knocking on each to their own, brothers and sisters. I don't judge you for it. It's just not for me. And we can agree to disagree, and we can still go have an adult or an alcoholic, however you want to roll with it.
Drink an adult. Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. If you're going to have the RGBs, I think more likely than not, and Pedro knows exactly where the fuck I'm going with this, is you got your tower and your PC on your desk because you like listening to coil whine.
You don't like listening to coil whine ever. No one does. But people like to show off their bling.
To fucking who?
The monkeys.
Their significant others, I guess. No one else is going to set foot anywhere near their...
Okay,
Oh my!
guys.
I just love this. Hey, baby, you want to come back to my place and look at my RGBs?
Dude, all right.
Yes.
All right. That might work, ladies, for the guys, but come on, guys. Girl walks in your house and she sees a tower on top of the desk and not under the desk where it belongs. You're done right there, man. Just give it up. Just telling you.
Or maybe you bring another guy and it's like, oh, that's a really nice gaming PC. That might work.
You know, I would assume that would just be wrong too for reasons. So
I'm not going to touch this one with a 10-foot pole. Up next, we got a question. We got an OBS question from Laboratorio Borio.
yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Seems good.
Yeah.
I'm not going to read it. My
It's
voice
just
is dying.
Laboratorio, but all right.
Take it, Pedro.
Okay, so Laboratorio, hi. I'm having a problem with recording using window capture. The video's details is incomplete/broken. The screenshots below are from Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition, but the problem also happens on Wreckfest. Video is not broken in screen capture, but performance in-game is really bad. Need help on how to fix window capture. My PC has Radeon RX 550, 4GB, Mesa 19.1.5, Distro Manjaro 18.1, Linux kernel 5.2 11-1.
Hang on. I've already asked the question of like, hey man, this is the reason why this ended up in the 8mm. It was like, have you clicked on the Mesa workaround color swap palette thing? He's like, yeah, it didn't do anything.
Okay, all right. What does the screenshots look like? You didn't put the link in the notes.
It looks like you would tell him to click on the Mesa workaround.
Oh, the flip around.
Were
okay.
you getting like black screen, then like maybe some text overlays?
Oh, like the
Yeah.
UI is showing, but the
Yeah.
game proper isn't right. Okay.
All right, but this guy's saying that like the actual capture is fine, but the in-game performance is poor, I guess.
Well, this is the only way to work around it's like to do screen capture as opposed to
But then the game
composite.
performance
It's
takes
crap
a hit.
because
Yes.
doing a full frame capture.
Yes.
If doing the Mesa workaround and then flipping the red to blue, because that usually does it. If enabling both of those isn't doing anything,
Screwed.
try the AMD GPU proprietary module.
I mean, he's on Manjaro, so I guess the Arch guys have split that off.
Girlfriends, call us. Let us know if you have some ideas because that's why I threw this in here. I was like, maybe somebody watching the show knows. I don't know if it doesn't work. It's like, well, for me, my solution, and I would say my personal solution, if I run into this, is like, well, I'm not playing that game.
Yeah, I mean, something really wants me to, or something really makes me think that it's the 5500 or it's the 550, which is not really the greatest card if you're going to be doing any sort of recording. So
it's not, but
It's
these
a
are,
1030, basically.
well, welcome to OBS. Welcome to my mornings when I go to our OBS. And it's like, I have a calculator and I want to stream at 144. 1440p at 120.
Yes,
yeah.
2560, 1440 at 144 hertz.
I mean, like the next step would be like maybe check if Mesa 19.2 fixes any of, if Mesa 19.2 fixes any of it, because I mean, it did just come out. There's a bunch of fixes in there and a bunch of additional AMD support. So you know what? Maybe it's a driver problem. Maybe you need to update your drivers. Give it a shot.
Indeed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on that beautiful bombshell, maybe.
Maybe.
Hey, guess we forgot to do something.
Oh, music.
I forgot to hit record. But I remembered just in the nick of time. If you want to get a hold to us, that's how you do it, man. Hit the contact thing. Tweet us, but YouTube comments, however you want to rock and roll with it. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm at Vinstone on Twitter. I will at least read. Don't DM me, bro. Don't DM me, fam. Not because I'm pretentious or anything. That just doesn't end up. It ends up in like this other folder that is usually just spammers. So I'm going to miss it, man. I'm at Vin on mass.linuxgamecast.com. It's a safer place since Frenchie finally bailed on it.
Womp womp. I'm Jordan Smung. You can find me possibly releasing my 24-part long tutorial on Hebrew Sign Language at The Burning Fool on Twitter or at Frojo at mass.linuxgamecast.com.
And I am Pedro Mateos. You can find me at Unaccounted For on Twitter or really nowhere else, unless you're anywhere near Cambridge in the UK. Yes, I am on Twitter. If you at me on Twitter, I will reply if it's something I can reply to. If not, then I don't know what you want from me.
Hey, Pedro, I got a question for you. What's a place in Cambridge you frequent so that people can go stalk you in real life?
Tesco's. Yeah, I go shopping there a lot.
So
we're gonna roll some credits to thank the beautiful people, man. Keep being awesome. We can't do the show without you.
If you walk into a Tesco and you see Pedro Mateus, you've won a trip to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
Yes.
Yeah, basically, it's that is the place that I definitely go into the most. That isn't, the place where I work.
Candy Mountain. All right. We're going to thank Arthurian, Mr. Fox Dog, Empty, the Atomic Ass, Michael G, Bob Bryant, Aldis, Apple,
Aldis showed up and watched my stream, unlike some people.
Yeah. And Drummer. We also got our producers, like Jupiter Broadcasting and Steven Strider and Renaud. Colin, Artane, the other Jordan, Evandro,
David Eagle, Guy,
Brad, Frank. It's not your time,
Mike
Frank.
W.
Massimoni, Wintercell, Nicole, Shivik von Hovenstaden, Adrian. All right, Frank. Now get your ass out here.
Come on, Frank. Here you go.
All right, yeah. Look at those fuck buddies. They're amazing. They're so sexy. They send us hardware and then they get put on a piece of Bristol board.
They put us to work, man. They help us do things that we are not capable of. Plus, I would like tortured by
Gerunio!
Bring it. Lovely people. We gotta get out of here. Go away, Frank.
Yeah.
Frank's like that sometimes.
Goodbye, Frank.
So I got a question regarding Frank. Come Christmas time, is he gonna lose the Santa hat and get something else?
He's gonna get a Hail Hydra costume.
Oh, I'll send him a yarmulke.
Frank's gonna fucking stab you, son. Just watch yourself, all right?
And a menorah.
Bye.
Bye.
5 dudes.